and welcome to the Brunton Report. I'm here in Kansas City in Missouri, visiting with Vanguard Packaging. I'm joined today by Doug Hay. Doug, hello. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So before we start talking about the installation of the HP PageWide C500, give us a little bit of background. Tell us something about Vanguard.
Well, in 1975, Jack and Bobby Mathis started the company selling packaging supplies. And in 1979, they went into brown boxes. And then about 8 years after that, they started selling POPs.
And today we're in quite a dedicated facility here. So Vanguard Digital.
Yes.
Tell us about this this vision that the company has and why you've set up this facility specifically for not just digital printing, but also digital converting as well.
Sure. I mean, when they started, the first machine in here was a C500, right? And so we set that in there knowing that there would be expansion into other avenues. We had a 15.5 prior to that. We moved that up also this facility. Then we went out and purchased some equipment, a Highcon Euclid for a laser die cutter, and we have 2 Zünd table cuts, digital cutting.
And I know you're obviously inside the industry, you've been around for a long time. You obviously had experience with digital print before you joined Vanguard. Tell us about that journey over the last 5 years or so as to how you've built this digital division.
Well, I think we went out there and looked, because I had experience prior to with digital technology, we went and looked and said, how do we want to assign this, right? Once the machine got installed, we saw like, okay, we have to have the manpower to it. We didn't feel it was right to go and take some of the analog guys up here. So we kind of looked out there in the industry, people who have some kind of experience with digital, maybe in other avenues, offset world, newspaper, and we started bringing those people in and started working with them along with the HP techs to grow that business, right, and make them understand how to use this technology. And it's been a very good output from that side. We've had a lot of growth within that, and it's worked really well.
When we sort of talk about implementation of a digital workflow, that also impacts on your customers as well. So how have your customers adapted to the significant investment in the creation of the digital division?
Sure. I mean, I think there's a lot of advantages to digital versus the analog, right? You don't have the print plates. You can have butt registration. It's more sustainable, right? And when you look at that, because you're not going through as many processes, I think there's a lot of advantages. They like to have less inventory on, right? So you can reduce that because you can make the setups quicker. So I think there's a lot of advantages across the board for our customer base. And then they've owned it. They've adapted to it really well, right? And say, okay, we want to do that. We want to change out our print more frequent. We're running a special. We want to do something like that. So it made all that much easier process, and we can get them and give the customer what they want on the time frame that they needed.
Sure. Well, let's turn our attention now to obviously the big beast sat behind us, the PageWide C500. I believe it was one of the first 5 in the US.
Yes, it was.
And obviously since it's been installed, upgrades have taken place to bring it effectively to what, C500 plus?
Yes, yeah, definitely. I mean, and again, it was a journey, right? We know when we got that first 5, we knew that we would have some inherent issues of upgrades and stuff down that. We talked about that quite extensively with HP, and now we're probably 15 upgrades into it. It's a modular design, which helped, right? The modular design lets us be able to go ahead and make some of those adaptable changes without having to have a new machine. And I think that's another part of the glory of this machine, is being able to make those upgrades as we have time. I think it makes it simpler, right? And now today, we started at 75 meters, we're at 90 meters running. We did in excess of over 50 million square foot last year, which is a plus, and we hope to see it continue to grow beyond that.
And if we take your experience, because obviously I know that you've operated other digital print engines as well, but let's look at Vanguard. You've got the old 15500, the multi-pass machine, obviously ideal for displays, POS. Talk to us a little bit about the type of work that you'd be running on the C500. So more packaging?
Well, I think to a certain point, we still run plenty of displays across this machine. It's still wide enough to do that, right? Yeah. But we also we have an e-commerce division, boxgenie.com, right? And so that allows us to have some shorter runs, a lot of changeovers. So we can do 30, 40 setups in a shift, right? So that all blends itself into making it why we wanted the machine. Plus we went from UV to water-based ink. Big change, right? Now, if we look at UV versus water-based, to me, the biggest thing there is not just necessarily the machine itself and the runnability of it, because of the type of print that we get, which is phenomenal, but you also get your downstream equipment, your conversion side. You don't have to worry about the scuffing. The print is much harder. It's soaking into the paper, and it's much better surface, so I can run my hoppers and the other equipment, the converting equipment, just like I would any other press. With UV, you would have to run your hoppers lower and slow your press down from the scuffing and stuff that you would see from the feed wheels and stuff. So I think it's a big plus.
And you were also involved with a lot of the discussions during the early stage of the development of this machine. So for Vanguard, this truly is a relationship with the vendor, with HP.
Very true. I mean, again, we've had a lot of conversations, you know. In the early days, they were here on site. For probably that first year, you had a lot of people. You know, then they brought in their R&D, their engineers to talk to my crew to what do you like, what do you dislike, to try to help some of those modifications to this to make it a better machine, which not very many vendors do that. And I think that's an integral part. First time in my career in 44 years that I've seen somebody bring in an engineer to talk to the crew, which I think all along needed to happen. You know, and so we just built it from there. So now we still have a bi-weekly meeting. We can talk about anything, everything's on the table. We make modifications or suggestions of things that we would like to see for this piece of equipment to make it even better. And I think it's a very good relationship that we've had, and we're very close. You know, we can pick up the phone and call them at any time that we need for whatever reason. And it's just a really good relationship. And that's a big reason why we went with the C500, because we already had some of that experience with the 15.5.
And if we think about the next generation of operator, we all know this, you know, it's a global issue, you know, trying to get skilled labor to come into a traditional manufacturing environment. Do you feel that the advent of digital prints, the early stages of digital converting, do you think this is going to help save our industry in terms of attraction of the young talent?
100%. I mean, I think this is really what kids are used to. They're used to computers, they're used to their phones, right? Yeah. They can come in here. It takes a lot of the physicality out of it. There's not a lot of physical attributes to this machine. They're throwing sheets, and no, you don't have to worry about that. So I think that kids are going to be more adaptable. They get to push buttons, which is what they like, right? And it's not just kids, you know, most of the adults today have been around computers for so long. I think this is a perfect fit for that versus the analog machines that we have down there. I just think that this is where our industry as a whole has to go with this type of technology, just because of all the pluses that you get along with it.
So, final question. How have the customers reacted to this investment in terms of print quality, speed to market? What's the overall reaction been?
I think it's really good. I think it's continuing to grow, right? And there was a lot of people at the first that says, I'm not sure if I want to do this, right? But after they started seeing that versus the analog, it made more and more sense to them. So you see the migration happening far more now today than we even seen before. And as more equipment comes into the field, you know, it's more adaptable, so you're competing against some of those other people, which is fine by us because we still have the best print engine in the market according to what I've seen out there. So we love it.
Well, Doug, thank you so much indeed for telling us the story. A truly impressive facility here, all digital, no analog, and at the center of it, the C500 from HP.